We're here today with the House District 8 Democrats, where we had a community forum where all 4 of the candidates on the primary were here today and answered questions submitted and from the community. They did an incredible job, and we want to make sure to remind folks to show up to caucus in March and to vote in the primary, and always vote. Thank you very much.
A very common issue was very much around governance and how you would support HD8 in particular. This question: how do you plan to engage with constituents to ensure their voices are heard and represented in your legislative priorities? And you want to go first?
Yes, so I mentioned that a little bit in my opening statement. Deep ties in the community. I'm connected with many of the RNOs that come into the House District meeting, and I will maintain and do that. I also started a newspaper and several communication channels within the neighborhood. We will keep those going and make sure that you all know what is going on at the Capitol. I think that's the most important role of a legislator, is having that connection. I'm a delegate, I'm not a trustee. I'm not here to decide what is the best for this community. I'm here to know what are your issues, what bills do you want me to run, and go fight for those bills. And so that's the type of stuff I would do. I'll also hire from the community, make sure that we have staff and interns that represent our community and are from our schools in the district, and make sure you have those ties as well. And welcome you all to the Capitol and make sure it's a warm and welcoming environment. So thank you for your question.
How I would govern is how I've been doing. I would work in coalition in the community with community organizations. I would create a constituent cabinet and with subject matter experts as well as roundtables, and have a quarterly meeting with all of the coalitions and community members. I would have regular town halls. That's how I would go. That's how I've been governing, and that's how I would govern should I be elected.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm running a community campaign. It's a grassroots campaign. Ever since I moved into this district 23 years ago, I have been very involved with our community. Whether it's been volunteering as a Denver Police Department volunteer to help our community with solving gun violence and community crime. I also work with our homeless, our unhoused, and our migrants. I'm very involved with everything that is happening currently in our community, but really by knocking on doors, by meeting people, and by talking to each and every one of you about what the issues are more concerning to you. That's how I will gather to making sure that I'm the voice for our community to be able to represent each and every one of you. Thank you.
So I deeply value accessibility. When I worked for Ted Kennedy, he was an incredibly well-known person and was completely accessible. That is deeply important. It's how you know what to work on. And so that would be a core value of mine. I think, like Juan, I've been coming to the House District 8 meetings for years and feel really engaged with this community. I think it's important to be out in the community and present in the communities like brown people and other discussions that are really strong leaders in those discussions, and I would want to be there. And then I think absolutely having regular town halls. And then I think instead of coming and giving an update in the HD8 meetings about what I'm working on, talking with you all about what you hope to see in a legislator, and then before session, kind of moving those ideas through the process. So deeply value accessibility, and that would be a huge part of what I do as a legislator.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Clearly you practiced. Excellent. The next question comes from a member of the East High School community. What policies would you implement to address systemic racism and promote equity and justice for our community? I will start with Sharon.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Well, first of all, I would, it's not any secret about the social equity bill in cannabis that I'm doing. I would work in all sorts of different aspects. I support bills like the Senate bill right now with the social equity study. I support bills like social equity and continuing in social equity. Because when we strengthen our families, when we strengthen our working family, we strengthen the economy. So those are the types of bills that I would work in.
Whenever you're ready, yeah, we'll go in this order.
Yeah, no worries, I was making sure you were about this.
No, you're good.
I would start off with making sure that we have gender inclusiveness policies created, not only for our schools, but also definitely for all of our government buildings and government areas that we own. I'll ensure that we have gender neutral bathrooms and making sure that we are all able to work together as a community without with inclusivity, and making sure that we're working with each and every gender and every single race together. Thank you.
Lindsay, you're next.
Yeah, so I think I'd start out with how do we support Rep. Bacon and Rep. Herod and Senator Coleman's bill that's in session right now that is exploring the impact of racial inequities in Denver, and then taking those ideas that are coming from that study and putting it into legislation in next session. That's deeply important to me. I think we're in Park Hill right now. We have 4 elementary education schools within a mile of each other, and they are not equitable. So focusing on what access to education and how that impacts race in our country, in our city, in our state, that would be hugely important. And I think we need to have an equity lens in every piece of legislation, everything we do, thinking about how we ensure we level the playing field. And then finally, I'm really passionate about homeownership and diversifying homeownership in our city. We live in Park Hill. Our homes are unaffordable now, and we're losing the diversity of our community, and I would want to evaluate how we invest in homeownership across the board.
And next, we have Juan.
Yes, this is a great question, so important to me. Racial equity has always been a focus of mine. From my first role in politics as a student senator, I helped diversify the CSU government and make sure that we had diversity from all the different offices on the campus. Then fast forward, starting a nonprofit called Metro Deep, which is the Diversity Equity Partners. We have put families into home ownership. We actually helped buy down their credit. We helped get folks to start businesses. We've actually done that intentional work. Right now in Montbello, we're building 97 units of affordable housing, one of the largest publicly funded projects that is community-based. We're building a business center, entrepreneurial center. These are ways we actually create equity. It's not just inclusion and, hey, come sit at the table. It's about how do we actually address the statistics and actually put folks into the places that they need to be, and recognizing the historic oppression that folks have faced. So I rose in support of the bill at the Capitol right now. But that bill's going to take 3 years to get that history back. What are we going to do on day one?
Thank you. And as a reminder, you have 3 rebuttals. If you, at any time you want to use them, you can just raise your hand and then you can respond. Obviously, we'll wait until that person finishes and you'll have to respond after that. The next question is, and I've changed the wording just slightly here, but what legislation do you see yourself writing in the first year at the Capitol should you be elected? And I believe we are to, Vic, did you go first? Oh,
Me?
no, Vic.
Oh, me? I think, so I have many issues that I'm passionate about, but I think one of the things that we're really concerned right now that's happening today that we can make a true impact is ensuring that we are providing the ability to our migrant community that is coming into the United States seeking asylum. The federal government allows them to cross the border with a piece of paper and a date for them to be able to seek asylum for courts. However, we're not allowing them or giving them the opportunities to work or to provide and work to bring more of our economy back into the Colorado economic. So I would start off by creating a temporary worker visa to allow those migrants, because they want to work. I have worked with many of them, with many nonprofits. The biggest complaint is, I'm here to work, I can make money, I want to support myself, I want to be able to get housing for my family, and I want to contribute because I am going to be an American. So that's the first bill I would write, equality for migrants.
1 minute, exactly. Thank you, Lindsay. Next.
So my answer is I don't know. We have a session going on right now, right? So we want to see what's going to be passed and go from there. I want you all to know that I am about quality over quantity. I really want to dig deep on a lot of issues, and I'm going to talk about that, but I think it's really important to, when you think about electing someone who understands the process and is going to think about the least unintended consequences in every piece of legislation. So I would love to work on issues related to child welfare and mental health access for students, and that would be a huge priority for me, and I would love to work on that right away. I would also like to work on gun violence prevention right away. And I think, as I mentioned before, on housing. How do we increase housing for everyone in this city and in this state? But I do think it's really important, back to constituent engagement, that we are talking to people and thinking through what does it look like to pass legislation, and how do we engage the community, and not jump to the first thing that we want to pass.
Thank you, Lindsay. A minute again. Excellent. Quan.
So first I say, I think that the bill idea is a great idea, and was something I would work on as well. I do know that it would be tough to do that, given that it's federal policy for the work authorization. I will also want to work on mental health. My mother has experienced extreme schizophrenia, which pushed her into homelessness. As well as one idea that I've always had is I really wanted to do a home ownership omnibus, if you will. We need to focus on ways so we can help people buy down credit so that they can actually buy a home. Home ownership is the most important way of actually fighting the cost of living increases that we're seeing. Apartment to condo conversions. We have all these apartments coming up. Folks are living there. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over years, and they're not getting any of that equity back. How do we capture that for those folks? And really look at the programs that we have through CHAPA. They're not working anymore because it costs so much more to buy a home. So we have a huge cliff effect. We have to provide more funding for those first-time homeowners. I represent the millennial generation, and we can't afford to buy a home.
Thank you, Quan. Yes.
Thank you.
Let me just put the timer. Perfect. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Quan. He's absolutely right. It is a federal issue. However, in Colorado, we're way better than what we're doing, and we could do so much more. We're the state that told the federal government that we're going to pass marijuana legislation, and we made it happen. And they told us we couldn't do it, and we did. We are better than watching people freeze to death. We are better than watching people starve to death. We have an entire epidemic, not only with our migrants, but our unhoused. We can find a way to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
30 seconds is pretty quick, so I appreciate that.
That's all right, I was running out of stuff to say anyway, so.
Thank you. Next, Sharon.
So I would work on food access and legalizing housing and cutting the red tape in housing. I know as a former child welfare worker and mental health worker that food access, the lack of food, correlates to crime and all the things that we're experiencing in the unhoused. So those are the two main things. And talking to my neighbors and knocking on doors and making the phone calls, those are the two major issues in my area that I see, and even around the district: food access and legalizing housing and cutting the red tape. We have, as a woman in the trades, I am a tradeswoman, and I do know that the red tape in housing is a major, major issue. And so I would build on what's already going on in the legislature with the housing bill and making it stronger. I know another bill came back this session that I'm stakeholding on and working really hard on, and that the trades is really working hard on as well. But I think there's a different component. It's not just about writing it at the front end and back in the accountability.
Thank you. Excellent. The next question. What is your relationship with HD8? What work life, prayer life, community, or volunteer work specifically within HD8 have you done? And we will start with Lindsay, who will work.
That's a great question. So, as I mentioned before, feel really connected to the district because my my dad grew up here, my kids go to public school in the district, so we're very involved with our public school community. It's a very diverse school, and we're proud of that our kids go there. You know, as I said, I went to East High School. I still am involved with the alumni group at East, and I can't tell you how many events I go to where there's some folks in the room today that have that East connection and have come out and supported my campaign because of that. So I feel, you know, and have been participating in the HD8 meetings for many, many years, and feel really proud of this progressive district. That when I knock on doors, almost every block almost every house has voted in the last 4 primaries. Like, that's amazing. I'm so proud to be a part of this district. So that's my connection.
Thank you.
Under time.
4 seconds to go. Yes. Juan,
So much work has been done. Of course, starting the 5 Points Atlas to support businesses during through the COVID pandemic, to let people know that they were there. Starting the Walton Street Renaissance Project, so you see all the murals that are on Walton Street. We're like, we want to bring murals to Walton Street and support that historic area, help start that. We have done entrepreneurship classes at schools like Wyatt, as well as Robert F. Smith, and been volunteering there. We have done, we've done a lot of work. Through the Urban League, we adopted lots of parts of 5 Points to clean it up. So much tied to the community, and so that won't change. I'll say that this role is meant to be a part-time job, and I'll try to keep it that way in the sense of staying involved in the community organizations that I've been involved with over the years.
thank you. Sure.
So I'm not originally from here. I came here to fight for fair contracts for 30,000 state workers. Came to Colorado and loved it, and laid roots down here. So how I'm connected is I pay taxes here, and I live here, and I do a lot of work in the community. Until about 6 months ago, I was on the executive board of the NAACP. I headed up the legal redress committee. And I also have done, a lot of people know me from labor. I sit on the board of the AFL-CIO, the Denver Area Labor Federation Board, and how I've connected it back to the district is creating apprenticeship opportunities for young Black and brown in all colors. So that's how I'm connected to this district. I also am a PO. In precinct 806, and I've knocked every door in 806, and gotten a lot more people involved in the democratic process.
Thank you, Sharon. Excellent.
When my family and I moved here 23 years ago, we moved into Central Park, and at that time we were having a huge crime problem. We continue to have crime in our entire district, but what I went ahead and did is I worked closely with the police department to bring technology to the 911 system by creating something called Text a Tip. 30,000 residents in Central Park are now able to anonymously call 911 through a texting system to be able to alert them when they see something, they say something. We know that Park Hill has been a food desert for a very long time. I've worked with organizations within our community, most notably one called Mo Better Greens, where they are supplying different types, mostly vegetation and vegetables, to the community so that they can have nutritional food, and those are given out at farmers markets. And then lastly, I would say that working with, forget the name of it, darn it, it's a brain injury that I have, so bear with me, I'll get there. But working with the community. That's what I'm gonna do when I pass the bill.
Thank you. And then, just so we know, we have about 3 more questions coming from the pre-planned questions, and then there will be an opportunity for closing, and then I imagine we will have time, unless folks really control the mic in a different way, for questions from the audience. And so the next 3 questions, we had a lot of questions submitted about education, particularly education funding, safety in schools, the school to prison pipeline. And so instead of asking you a question about each of them, we decided to ask, can you describe your education platform? And we will start with Juan, and we'll go Sharon and then
Yeah, so my platform of education is really making sure that we're funding our schools appropriately. That's been a topic for many years. But what underroots that is the social equity components. When you look at the differences between different types of schools, it's about who can give to those schools and fund those schools. When we look at violence as well, it's about the community having the resources to wrap around those different communities. So supporting community organizations to come into the schools and have the funding that they need. That's what I think the best role of the legislator is, to unlock funding and actually be specific about where it goes and how it best supports. Many of the organizations that support youth and support education outside of the schools don't get the funding that they need to actually provide that impact. And of course, we have to bring more money into DPS in creative ways while we're facing huge economic concerns and looking at ways to cut taxes because it's become so, the cost of living has become so great. So striking that balance and making sure we're still funding schools at a high level.
Perfect, thank you. Sharon, you're next.
So my education platform is simple. It comes from within. My mom is a retired educator and department head. And I come from a family full of teachers. And so I'm the one that went rogue from my family. So with all of those knowledge and all that background and all that foundation, what I would do is put public schools first. I'll put public schools first. I believe in neighborhood schools. I believe that kids should be able to function and think straight. I believe in paying teachers correctly. And those are the things that I would fight for. I would fight against discrimination in the schools. I would fight against discrimination like I have been doing with LGBT youth in schools as well as teachers. Many people do know that I work for the American Federation of Teachers, and I worked for them for several years. And so I stand firmly with that platform as well. And so that's where I would be.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I'm a lifelong learner. Got my bachelor's degree using the GI Bill. I'm almost done with my master's degree at MBA at Colorado State University. I have 2 classes left. Thank you very much. Colorado is one of the most expensive places for all of us to live. Yet we're 50th in the nation when it comes to funding public schools. I, as a Latino, am very much concerned that 53 to 54% of our student body in Denver Public Schools are Latino. We need to make sure that we're investing in our schools like we have committed to do, but we haven't done. We need to make sure that we're providing funding for technology, education, retention of teachers, and most importantly, if we want our children to have academic excellence, we have to provide an environment where they're safe in. This is the generation of our lockdown kids. We need to be able to provide them a place for them to be able to learn and thrive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all agree, and I hope everyone knows that we need more investment in education in this state. It is abysmal what we're doing to our public school system. And like I said, I have three kids in the public school system, feel really passionate. My mom's a teacher in the public school system here today, really passionate about that investment. Senator Coleman often quotes the statistic that we have that unacceptable. We have lots of kids who are struggling from mental illness, and they need support. They need support in the school. They need support outside the school. So that is a huge priority for me. Also special education. So I have two of my kids have some pretty significant needs, and they get really amazing support in the school. We work collaboratively with the team, and they are able to learn in an environment that other kids can learn in as well, even though they learn differently. Every kid needs that access. Every kid deserves that opportunity, and I would fight for that.
Thank you, Lindsay. And we have a rebuttal from Quan.
Yeah, so not really a rebuttal, but wanted to add into the conversation. I have a master's in urban public affairs, and the problem with our system right now is it's too tied to how many kids are enrolled. We have to change that system. People are leaving the public system, and that means they lose their dollars, and it's traumatizing to schools. So we have to change the way we are funding education, how we look at education as a whole. We're in 2024. We can't keep doing it the same exact way. And so I'll be looking to partner with you all in innovative ways we can actually solve the systemic problem that's nationwide across the country when you look at public school districts.
Can I have a vote to that?
Go ahead,
Sharon.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, Sharon.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I heard, Lindsay, you say that your kids have significant needs, and you work in a team environment. On your side of Martin Luther King, I was wanting to know what would you propose for the people that don't have the same choices that your children have on your side of Martin Luther King, that are children that are on your side of Martin Luther King in Northeast Park Hill, or in the rest of the district where there's the health disparities and the educational disparities, and they don't even have enough food to eat.
Thank you, Sharon. Would you like to respond? And Vic, if it's okay with you,
Yeah.
then we'll let Lindsay respond and then opportunity.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the school that my kids go to, it isn't just kids in Park Hill. So that school works really hard to ensure that there's access for every kid, no matter what. But I go back to Park Hill, we have four schools that are not equitably funded and supported. So I would fight that be equitable. And I think to Juan's point about the investment in not just per pupil, it is way more complicated than that, and we have to make sure that schools like Stedman and schools like Park Hill Elementary have the same access.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that one of my sons has a learning disability, and we didn't find out until much later. And so the point that I'm trying to make with that is we need to have choice is good, and I also believe we need to have diversity in schools. My son didn't thrive when it came to getting an A. Where he thrived was to be able to make grade average, so that when he got a C or a B, we celebrated that as a milestone in his development. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Kwan's point, it's a pretty agreeable group, so if you just like to use your rebuttal as an opportunity to say something else, feel free to do that. That's okay as well. The next question was submitted by a teacher at Bruce Randolph, so it's actually apropos to our previous question. They said, I can't afford to live in the neighborhood in which I teach. Our community faces a massive housing affordability crisis. What would you do as a legislator to address that? And we will start with Sharon, and we'll go to Vic, and then come back.
So the first thing that I would expound on what the jobs on the bill for jobs, the partnership on jobs. It addresses it actually has an equity study that's attached to it that is not done yet. I would work in conjunction with the labor unions and in the states, right? Correct. They don't. We have teachers that live in their cars. I've worked with them. I've organized them. I know the stories. We have teachers that park their cars and drive and hop on 3 buses just to get to work because they can't afford gas. So those are the things, and those are the stories that I would take with me to the Dome on the other side of the Dome, on the other side of it, not just as a stakeholder previously, but to actually use that in writing powerful, thoughtful legislation for people just like teachers, or any worker for that matter, which is everybody. Workers are everybody, unionized or not. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Sharon.
I would encourage municipalities to look at raising their minimum wage. We can't all have the same minimum wage as we do in Denver, but municipalities can do better. I would work to make sure that we have affordable and accessible housing. One thing that we really need to do is to make sure that we're providing legal assistance so that we can provide more opportunities for those that are renters. When we talk about renters, most of them are paying their rent, but they're not getting any credit, or they're not getting any benefits on their consumer reports or on their credit history. We need to be able to provide them an opportunity to have generational wealth by having the credit so they can invest to buy a home. So those are some of the things I would look at doing. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think, and the legislature is looking at this right now, of how do we expand actual affordable housing units. We don't have enough actual homes for people, and that's why things are so expensive. So there's lots of ways looking at the legal structure, insurance structure that incentivizes people to build affordable housing units. I would want to explore that and definitely invest in that. And like I said earlier, and Juan mentioned as well, home ownership is so important. And I think investing in programs that provide loans and grants to communities of color to invest in home ownership. I think those are really important, and that gets to that point of ensuring that we have teachers and amazing workers that can live and work in their city.
Can I have one more rebuttal with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll take an impression.
I think one thing that we also need to do is to work with our municipalities to remove the red tape for zoning and for them to be able to allow for more accessibility of ADUs and other apartment buildings. And when we talk about our migrants, we have a lot of restrictions for them where there's only allowed to be 4 people in one dwelling. Because of the circumstances that we're at, I would like to be able to see that we can expand that a little more. I know there's fire codes and everything else we need to consider, but there is some steps that we can do to give a little more housing for those that find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Sharon?
Lindsay, could you tell me how you would, could you clarify what you meant on, because you used the term affordability, which is a myth in Park Hill and in this district. I'm talking about accessibility, so I was wondering how you could clarify how someone could get a mortgage if they can't pay the rent.
Yeah, sure. So I think those are 2 questions: rental assistance and safety, safeguarding rental. People are renting, and then also affordability and housing. So I think I would support protecting renters who, if they lose their paycheck, they're out on the street. That we have to figure that. Representative Javier Mabry is doing great work on that. I would love to work with him on ensuring safety there. And on home ownership, I think I believe in things like the Deerfield Fund that, like I said, and help homeowners or prospective homeowners in getting a grant to purchase a home. But the only way we bring down cost in Park Hill is building more places.
I agree. So two aspects of this question. So focusing on the teachers, I think we can partner with teacher organizations to build condos and build home ownership opportunities. And then we have to create those programs, like I said, that actually work to actually get those into that. So even the Deerfield Fund, you still have to have a minimum credit score to get approved for a loan. So how do you access that $40,000 to $60,000 as African American? Still have to impact the credit. And so we were able to do that with the program that I created. We actually looked at credit and gave folks a grant towards fixing their credit. With our teachers, they're getting a bad deal. Right now, they're saying that minimum or middle income starts at now $95,000. We can't keep having a conversation of what the minimum wage is. The system is not working as a whole, and so providing that home ownership opportunity, get all of the barriers out of the way. Let's reinvent and rethink about how we're talking about this. It's not about what affordability is or not. We're building 97 units of affordable housing, and that's entirely 30 to 60% AMI. That is affordable. But again, how can folks access it? And so if I could get 30 seconds on this, because everybody else, very creative use of everybody else. Just to say, affordability isn't necessarily a myth, but we do have to talk about how do we actually bring those units to bear, right? So talk again about this project in Montbello, which is a neighborhood that has huge issues with the cost of living. It took $90 million. This is foundations, this is the federal government, this is the city and county of Denver. More projects like that will come, and there'll be more funding if I have your support at the Capitol to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Creative use of your remote.
Yes.
The last question, actually, we're at 11:40 actually, so we'll maybe ask that question if we have time. We will now go to closing, which means we'll have 1 minute. Yes, 1 minute for closing, and I believe we are with Vic, and then we will go to Lindsay and Brenda.
First of all, it's amazing to see our community come together. It's been 8 years since we've had an opportunity to elect a new representative, and I know that this is something that everyone here is concerned about. and that you guys are all going to make the right choice when you do it. When I embarked on this journey of mine, I started with the idea of having the voice for community. I really believe through my life learned experiences that I could champion many of the issues that are concerning our community. Not only because I've lived them, but also because I've been there. So mental health, service dog, obviously, right? Substance abuse. I was closing up. Substance abuse, mental health, accessibility for all health services, gun violence, community violence, and making sure that we're investing in our students and education. Thank you very much. I thought you were going to play the music off of me on the stage.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lindsay, go ahead.
Well, thank you all for coming today. Like I said, I am so energized by HD8 and how engaged you all are. When I knock on the doors every day, I feel really empowered and excited to work with you all to collaborate and tackle some of the hardest issues that are facing our city and our state. And as I said in my intro, I think we all feel beaten down by politics. And I think that what this shows me is that we all want something better. And I hope to work with you all to bring that to the state. That's my passion. I have extensive experience in government, and I look forward to working with you all. And I think also just a reminder that we all know each other. We all see each other as people. This is a Democratic primary. My hope is to maintain a really positive environment and work together as we are through this process in our campaigns. But then if I'm elected, I want to work really hard to earn your vote, and I will work just as hard as your state legislature. So thanks for being here, and appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you all for being here. This was an idea that we crafted last meeting, so it turned out to be a success. Again, my name is Quan Atlas. I'm really running to make sure that our state can stay affordable, become healthier, and become safer. And really, how to do that, we have to tackle our economic and our equity issues. Those are issues that I'm skilled in. Those are issues that I've been working in tirelessly for this several years. And it's the reason why I have over 40 endorsements from leaders like Anna Jo Haynes, Terrence Carroll, Rosemary Marshall, who represented this area, Happy Haynes. Many folks want to make sure that we have somebody who's competent and capable, ready to do the work on day one. I want to sit down with each and every one of you over the next few weeks and earn your support. We're in the caucus process. I'd be honored to have your support. I have my petition here. I'd be honored to have your petition signature. So at least I can get on the ballot, and I know that if we get on the ballot and raise the money that we need to do, we're going to be able to turn out voters, and we're going to be able to win this election. You can go to quantatlas.com to learn more about my campaign. Thank you so much.
So as I close, I just want everybody in this room to know that what the type of leadership that you would get from me is an HD8 that is one world, not two worlds, not this part of Martin Luther King, not that part of Martin Luther King, not this part of the district, not that part of the district, that we all work together in tandem for the solutions that we need for this district. What you would get is strong, powerful legislation that accounts for food access and addresses the food desert. It addresses the housing shortage, and it addresses just transition for workers. That's not just transition, that they would be out of a job, $150,000 job, to go to $30 an hour, but they would be trained. We would have a trained workforce that is just for them to continue on and have that wealth where they can buy a home and have a mortgage and do that. We would have workers not living in their cars, whether they're unionized or they're not unionized. We would have clean energy. We can have both. We can have a just transition, we can have clean energy, and we can breathe. Where I live in the most polluted zip code in the country. And I don't like that, and that's right here in HD8. My water's not clean, my water has lead in it. So, what you can, okay, what you can expect from me is legislation that addresses all those things with front-end accountability and back-end accountability.
Before you unleash all of your questions at them, please raise your hand if you have a question. I will start on this side, then I'll pick a question this side and that side. Go ahead.
My question has to do with the leadership of the state of Colorado in dealing with climate change, of moving down, reducing, transitioning away from gasoline, coal, and oil. And we need to do it. We need to do it faster than we're doing it.
Let's start with Lindsay things are big. We'll do 30 seconds each.
Yeah, really appreciate your question and that you always ask this. I know how important climate change is to you. So I think, to me, we are on a great path. We are doing really well in Colorado, and we just have to keep pushing to get to that zero. I think that is incredibly important. I'm proud to be endorsed by Senator Hansen, who is a long time dedicated fighter against climate change. So I think he and I were actually just talking a couple nights ago about what we could do together in the state legislature. So I think it's really important. We have to keep pushing.
Thank you. Kwon?
Yeah, so I was an eco leader in college. We made CSU the first platinum lead country campus in the country, and we'll continue to do work like that. I own an electric vehicle, and I really believe in sustainability. So there's key areas in which municipalities need support to actually transition their buildings and their policies towards that. But we have to know that all of Colorado is not going to be on board with that. So how do we make sure that rural communities and communities that are relying on oil and gas actually have the capacity to transition with us, and that's how we build a Colorado that is more sustainable.
Thank you. Sharon?
So, thank you for your question. And I've done a lot of work so far on this. It's more from the worker end with just transition and people afraid to lose their jobs or whatever. We've done panels here. We just had a panel along with other community leaders in September about that, and we had all aspects from Green Latinos to from IBEW, everybody, community leaders about it. And Senator Hansen has amazing bills, he does, but a lot of his bills don't have back-end accountability on it for these polluters.
Thank you,
right?
Sharon.
So I would stick to the 2030 plan that we're on and go from there and build and make powerful back-end accountability.
Thank you. Okay.
Since the post-COVID era, we've seen a high increase in commuters traveling within all of our state. I would propose a first ever commuter green bill. What this would do is we incentivize corporations to allow at least one employee to allow employees to work at least one day from home and provide them carbon footprint credits in order to do that. If we're able to get 100,000 cars off the street a month, it will save us 40,000 pounds in carbon emissions. 480, almost 500,000 pounds a year. That would add to the already established green bills that we have here in Colorado. Thank you.
Questions? Let's say Ante in the back.
Cool. This is for Lindsay and Victor. So this seat has been represented for the last 42 out of 50 years by somebody black. What is your, why should people pick you over the two black candidates in this, or why should black voters pick you over the two black candidates in this race? And what black elected officials or community leaders have endorsed your campaigns?
Let's start with Vic, just because Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. What we have seen, especially since the last census, we've seen that our community has grown to become more diverse than it ever has before. We have more inclusivity from all races within our community. The question was how?
Why should black
Oh,
voters
yeah,
pick
absolutely.
you over the two
Yeah.
black candidates, and who's endorsed you that is black?
Thank you. So, why I think everybody that's a voter should endorse me, because I do have a plan to be able to help all of our community. Myself being Latino.
Thank you, Vic. And I paused it when you asked the question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Deontay. I really appreciate that question. I deeply believe in representation and that representation matters. And I don't think it's not just about who you are, it's about who you fight for. And so look at my record, look what I care about, look where I'm present. and this is a deeply important issue to me, especially in this district. I know what it means as a white woman to be elected in a district that has historically been held by a black person. I take that very seriously, and so I appreciate the question. To your answer, I have not had a black elected official endorse me yet, so I am hoping that I can earn that vote and earn that support.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I think the question is interesting, but I want to just say this. Black folks have represented this district not because we have a high turnout of black voters, but because we were the best people for the job. And so I think that I'm that candidate. I do have a lot of support from our black community because I've been showing up, but it's not about race in this election. It's about electing the best person for the job. It just so happens that it's been a black person for this district.
Do I have a rebuttal then?
You do not. Sharon, if you have rebuttals left, if you just want to use that 30 seconds at some point to sing a song or something, that's fine.
Yes.
Or do a rebuttal. The questions. And
America the
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Question first, just so you know. Let's go with you.
Hi.
And then go with this. Yeah.
I'm Mandy. I already took my question, but I have another one.
We took mine too.
It's all good.
My bad, yeah. We don't care about black people, my bad.
All right. So, I've lived here since 2014, and I've met some of you over the years. I would like to know what one thing in particular that you have that sets you apart to be a state legislator.
Great question. Start with Quan. Go to Sharon. Yeah. And Lindsay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing that I've been letting folks know is I'm ready to do the job. I worked at all 3 levels of government, so I worked with James Coleman. I learned a lot from him. I worked with United States Senator Michael Bennett, and then I worked with Mayor Hancock. And so understanding the issues at every single level, knowing who the players are, knowing how to create the bills, knowing how to get started on day one, but also being involved in the community. I've been to several of the RNOs in the last few weeks. They've asked me, who is your opponents? I mentioned their names and the folks don't know who my opponents are. So folks are gonna have to know that, how to get in touch with their legislator. They already know me and want to get started. Thank you.
Sharon.
I think the one thing that sets me apart is that I have actually worked on the legislation that's been signed into law. We've stakeholdered on those bills. I think also, yeah, that's the main thing that sets me apart. I actually have had almost 3 decades of lobbying in the Capitol. And I think the best thing is that community. I know the community very well, and they can always feel heard, and I'm always accessible.
Thank you, Sharon.
I would encourage everybody to go to my website, www.victorbencoma.com, to see all the accolades and the reason why. But I think the most important thing is because I'm about community. I care about our community, and I want to know what our community needs. Because of the work that I've done, I've been endorsed by one of the largest gun violence prevention organizations in the entire nation, and that's the difference. In addition to that, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
You can add
Sorry.
Keep going.
So yeah. So anyway, so that's what I would say. Thank you. So I got interrupted.
That's okay. Yeah.
We'll have Sharon get over the bell and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I
I
thought
just,
you-
do you wanna wait?
wanted to, yeah, I can wait.
Okay.
Oh. Mandy, thank you for your question. The number one, my experience. I've worked my whole career in alongside government at the federal level and at the state level. And I think with that experience, I bring a vision of bringing people together. That is what our state legislature needs. That's what our party needs. We need people who can work with people that they disagree with within our party. You can't get a bill passed without working with people that you disagree with. So vision for collaboration and experience.
Thank you. And Sharon?
The one thing I left out is that my campaign has been, you have to be able to work regionally with people. My campaign is endorsed, and you can go to sharonforco.com to learn more about me, but my campaign has been endorsed by at least 17 city councilors, Senator Marchman, and the Ministerial Alliance right here in our community, as well as other area pastors as well.
Thank you. You want to use your rebuttal?
Sure. Not a rebuttal.
Another question.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, so since we're closing up, I just wanted to, we all have to get on the ballot. So as Quan mentioned, he has his petition. I have my awesome outreach staff back there that has my petition, so if you like what you hear today, I would strongly encourage you to get signed. It's a lot of work to get on the ballot, and it should be. And so I hope that you can all help us get on the ballot. And also check out the website, gochristophercolorado.com.
Thank you, and I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. I'll go with Jesse, I know I said I'd ask this question, and we'll go with Sharon on this question first.
Yes, my question is similar to Ayante's, but not exactly. So I'm just gonna state this publicly. I've only seen 3 of y'all in community. Only 2 of you have reached out to me, and only 1 of you has offered to meet with me for coffee. With that being said, I am a Northeast Denver native. Y'all all know me. I ran for mayor on a Black First agenda. So I keep hearing all this lip service, if you will, about unity in the community, and we got to do all this stuff for the community. And I've been endorsed by this and this candidate and whatever or representative. This is a historically Black district, and it has been that for as long as I can remember. And I am 37 years old. So with that being said, what are any of you, including the Black candidates up here, going to specifically do for your Black constituents and Black residents in the district? Because the people that you have said that have endorsed you have sold us up Ships Creek up the river, like we were sold up the creek with Cherry Creek, like we were sold up the creek with 5 Points, like we were sold up the creek with Park Hill. So what is gonna set any of y'all apart from the people that have historically represented this district and allowed it to be gentrified, ethnically cleansed, and us as Black folks been displaced? Foundational Black Americans have been displaced from this community. So my question for all of you up here is, what are you gonna specifically do for Black people, and what are you gonna specifically do to make sure that Black people can remain in this community?
Thank you, Jesse. Sharon.
Thanks for your question, Jesse. It's always a pleasure working with you. It's always talking. We still haven't had coffee yet. Keep putting me off on coffee, Jesse. But I definitely take what you're saying to heart. I'm going to be doing the same thing I've always done. I'm going to be talking to the experts out in the community, like the Kevin Marshmans, the John Baileys, you know what I mean. So those are the things that I'm going to be doing to include Black people in an inclusive district.
Thank
right?
you, Sharon.
There's no doubt that there's always a need for healing and for wellness. Through community, working with businesses, and crafting policies to ensuring equitably across our entire state is important to me. And those are the things I would help do.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Jesse, let's get coffee. I'll give you my card. Absolutely, would love that. And I think that is how we start the conversation. I need to keep talking to folks in the community that care about these issues, that we ensure that if I was to be elected, that I'm representing the strong Black community that is historic in this district. So incredibly important to me. And then I think from a legislative level, like I said before, we need an equity lens in everything we do, whether it's education, whether it's housing. You know, we need to be thinking about how we uplift the community here in the district.
Quan?
Specifically, I've spoken with the Justice for Black Coloradans folks, and they're putting together a state fund that's tied with the study. They need to raise $3 million. I commit when in the legislature to finding state funds to go into that fund. This year they're not going for any funding, so that's specifically what I would do. I'll fight to get more home ownership for Black folks, as I've been doing, more opportunities for Black businesses, and particularly on Welton, we have to do something about all of the property that's sitting vacant. Give that opportunity to Black entrepreneurs who want to bring Welton back to its heyday, and I'm committed to doing that, and I've been doing that.
Thank you, Quan. I'm going to take moderator's privilege and let Khadijah ask a question because I'm curious what she's going to ask. Go ahead, Khadijah.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to all the candidates for coming. My question is, each of you prioritize funding public education. What are you planning to cut out of the state budget to accommodate that. I'd like to hear specifically cutting, not adding. What is the lowest priority in state funding currently that you would borrow from to fund public education?
Easy questions at the end. Lindsay, and then there's 30 seconds, sorry.
So I don't believe we need to cut programs at this point. When I talked to Pastor Vernon Jones, he is a huge advocate for passing additional funding for legislation. It's my understanding that we have $14 million in the budget that is available for different legislations and different programs that we want to pass. By creating a coalition of legislators that are champions for education, we can work together to be able to find the funds needed to be able to address that
Thank
issue.
you, Vic. Lindsay?
I knew when you held up your hand, Khadijah, you'd ask a great question, and I think shows how you know the process and how important it is. With Tabor, we do have to cut. There is no way, and I think we've all seen our legislators try to be really creative in doing that. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't. I'm willing to figure it out because education should be our #1 priority. But I do think we have to be creative because of Tabor, we're just restricted, unfortunately, in the state. So, and would love to work with you and try to figure out where we cut. Thanks for the question.
Quan and then Sean.
I can't say I would cut, but I would definitely redistribute. I think that we need to look at the ineffective programs, particularly I think in the work that I've seen within economic development. There are places where those programs just aren't working for a community and they aren't getting to work with the nonprofits that actually need them. And then another big area which James Coleman has been working on is our criminal justice system. In prisons and those type of areas, there are folks that probably don't need to be there. We could be saving lots of money by better rehabilitating folks and actually getting them in the community. But I do want to be clear that I do still will be fighting for funding for public safety at the local level.
Sure.
Thanks for your question, Khadijah. You always ask the best questions, Khadijah. So I'm like Quan. I would cut it from prisons and jails. There's programs in the budget that they're not even tracking, and I know this because I organized DOC, right? So I would just the short answer is I would cut it from prisons and jails. There's programs that aren't working. We put those people back into the community that deserve to be in the community, and we fund mental health in a way that is common sense.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Mr. Blackburn.